We live? Thank y'all for coming out to our second installment of the ForWORD. And let me just restate what a ForWORD is, which is ForWORD, FORWORD, which is ForWORD, a group of people coming together to discuss topics in order to go forward. And last time we was talking about religion versus spirituality. This is continuation of that, and we see a few new faces, and we're gonna keep it going. And our facilitator for this evening, the awesome Kimberly M. Knight.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I'm happy to be here. Good afternoon. How's everybody doing today?
Good.
Good. All right. I just want to give a shout out to the Carolina Panthers right now. We are hoping for a good win. Just want to put that out there. I'd just like to say I'm happy to be here. I'm glad to facilitate. We are going to continue the conversation from last time, talking about religion versus spirituality. So for a moment, I'd just like to get everybody involved and engaged and get to know everybody. So I'm going to pass the mic, and you tell me a little bit about yourself.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Sauls, and I was born here in Wilson, North Carolina, and I've been here all my life and left in '99. And the thing about me, about religion versus spirituality, it started back when I was younger, and I think it always been in us. It's just had awakened. I was, I'm gonna just give a little short story. I was going to church, and you know how you go to church in the mornings, and your mom wake you up, you go to Sunday school, and different age groups got to go with the different age groups, right? And so, you know, we all in the class, everybody asking questions, we asking questions, and they answering our questions in Sunday school. So then, in my thoughts as a kid, I'm thinking once we go to the congregation, it's like a big school, it's a bigger school. So as the preacher preaching, you know, I raise my hand because I want to ask a question, you know, and then I had the ushers come and say, no, you can't do that, you can't do that. And so that's when I really became like, this must not be for me then, you know, so that's my thing.
My name is Roy Spell. I also was born and raised in Wilson, North Carolina. I'm one of the founders of Quarterly Meeting Community Outreach here, and we do every quarter, you know, feed the community, you know, and surrounding that, we try to, you know, minister to some of the same people we used to hustle to, you know, sell drugs to back when we was out younger. So I'm just glad to be here amongst great minds.
My name is James Williams. I'm born and raised from Wilson, North Carolina. Been all over. I lived in all different regions: Mississippi, Virginia, Iowa, New Mexico. I have pretty much been all over the country. But to piggyback what my cousin said, Mike Sauls, I know when I was growing up, my father's a pastor, but a lot of things confused me. I never understood. My father would say that God is not the author of confusion, but I never understood when he would say, you know, Pentecostal holiness or Baptist, they do things this way. We do it this way. It just always was confusing me. We all came from the same Bible, but we always tended to worship a little differently. I also never understood why whites and blacks never really was in the same church. So when I was in Iowa, it was a very diverse church, and it was just things that was moving in a very positive manner. So it made me question a lot of things about religious laws and traditional practices. And the more I read the Bible, the more I started really seeing that God is more about relationship. So that's why, you know, I'm here with this whole spirituality and religion thing, and I have seen how God has transformed my life and my whole way of thinking. So I've seen God work, and I know the power that God has.
Hey, what's up? I'm Bev Clark, and I enjoyed the last discussion we had, so I'm glad to be a part of this one. Last discussion I briefly mentioned my take on religion versus spirituality. You know, is I think once we move past the need for validation, you can and start to form personal relationships with Christ yourself, right? Defining spirituality and that relationship with Christ and yourself, as opposed to needing a church to facilitate that or a pastor to facilitate that. I think that's the start of transitioning away from the idea of practicing religion and moving towards being a more spiritual person and developing a relationship. So I'm excited to be able to maybe expand on that a little bit and participate in the rest of the discussion.
Hi, how y'all doing? My name's Milton Hodge. From right here, Wilson, North Carolina. I grew up kind of rough here. You know what I'm saying? I'm not too familiar with like a lot of traditional like church and stuff like that. But I am familiar. You know, I'm glad to be here. I'm trying to grow, trying to learn. And I hope to get to know everybody that I don't know a little bit better, you know, in the sense of spiritual, you know. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna take it from there. My name again is Kimberly Knight. I'm a lifestyle blogger, a writer for Sheen magazine, and I also ghostwrite for many publications you read. Traditionally, I also am an educator, so I'm very excited to be here and talk about it. So what we're gonna do tonight is we're just gonna respect everyone's comments and concerns and everyone's opinion, because everyone's opinion is definitely welcome tonight. We also want to give everyone a timeline, you know, just keep it a little bit brief so that way we can get everybody's perspective tonight. So we're going to start off with the question I have for the group, and I am so excited to hear what you have to say, and then I'm going to share my personal definition. What is your personal definition of sin? So I'm going to pass the mic. Personal definition of sin.
My personal definition of sin. Really, when it boils down to it, I don't believe in sin. You know, it ain't no rule book in life. Like when a dog is born, a dog is born. He don't get up and try to walk in the house and get something out of the refrigerator because he's a dog, you know what I'm saying? It's no rule book on how to be a dog. So I feel that as far as humans and us as spirit and beings, that we was born, and when we were born, it's a certain way, it's a law that we should live by. And there's no right or wrong, it's just you have to, it's like different degrees of it, basically. Because if somebody killed my mom and I killed them, like, would you consider that a sin? But if I just go out there and kill somebody, you know, would that be a sin, you know? So I really don't think that sin, I don't believe in sin, like that.
Okay, and that's based off of, I guess, my understanding of what I carry for as conviction. We based off of basically what's in a man's heart. You know, that's really a lot coming out of the word, according to what a sin is. And a lot of times, in my understanding, what's a sin to me definitely wouldn't be a sin to someone else. So I couldn't bring someone to that conviction. You know what I mean? Sometimes, a lot of times we drinking, you know, somebody say you drink, you sinning,
Right.
you know, and to be honest, according to your convictions, that's why we have to be careful what church we join, what body you join under. If I join the church, that means I'm joining their belief. So if I join the church that don't drink, regardless of how I feel about it, I'm being the steps. I'm not a drinker. And if I do, the conviction within my heart, you know, God said he looks at the heart. So mainly a man's heart. So therefore, something that one man do is not a sin, but his heart would tell.
Right.
You know, that's a spiritual thing. Man, look at the outward appearance. God look at the heart. So obviously, regardless of whether you stated, whether I can judge and say, hey, you sinning, your heart will put it on you.
I tend to agree with Roy and Mike on that, and I really believe sin was actually created for the individuals that wasn't able to uphold some type of standard or law within society. But I think once you really develop a relationship with God, he sort of allow you to discern between right and wrong. And things that may not necessarily be sin in the Bible by the book may be considered a sin to you because God is preparing you for something much greater. Whereas I may see a woman that come into place and God may say, well, your weakness is lust of a female. So when I see the woman, God may say, you don't need to have a conversation with her. Something in my spirit tell me I don't need to have a conversation with her. Not that it's a sin for me to have a conversation with her, but I may be too weak in the flesh. So when I have that conversation, it may extend much further than just a conversation. But God has already let me know in my spirit that I shouldn't do that. So like Roy said, I think it is about your heart. And God allow you to be able to discern between what is right and wrong and what your spirit may be able to handle. Because a lot of times, like the Bible says, your spirit is willing, but your flesh is extremely weak. So I think the sin, and then when you look at sin, sin is actually just, it's something that is harmful to you in this world, and God wants you to be here to do his will. So things that can harm you, to me, falls into that realm of sin.
So, I think in my definition of sin, we can all agree that there are some things that are good, some things that are evil. And I feel like things that bring about an evil nature in your heart, or an evil nature in your mind, or even in your physical being, those things are sinful. I think the stronger we become spiritually, we realize, right, that we have to move away from those things that are evil. And like you were saying, and like, everybody has kind of mentioned, depending on where you are spiritually, those things, and as that relationship develops, those conditions may be different for you. But I think we can all agree that there has to be a baseline for people who call themselves spiritual beings who are trying to seek a strong relationship with God. We have to agree that some things are right, some things are wrong. And I think the better way of looking at that is, does it promote love, or does it work against that? And so it gets me back to, some things are good, some things I think promote love, things that are evil. And anything that leads to an evil nature, or evil feelings, or evil malice towards others, I think is a sin. And so the way you express that doesn't always have to be physical, right? So there can be the social implications, the psychological implications. But in the grand scheme, anything that makes me take on an evil nature, I feel is sinful.
I want to weigh in after you.
Yeah, I kind of agree with all you brothers. When it comes to sin and me, my personal judgment of sin would be, like, on the spiritual side, anything that will be pulling me towards negative, or pulling me towards being like evil, or doing someone else kind of unjustly, not just myself, but others also. You know what I'm saying? So through acquired knowledge, like living life and grabbing experiences through life, you kind of like, even if you don't want to, it's kind of involuntary. Like, your spiritual is going to grow, whether it's going to be like negative or positive. You know what I'm saying? So you're still going to be able to identify with the negative. You know what I'm saying? It's just on you to be either positive or negative, and to try to draw that line that this brother was speaking about, that Brother Beverly was speaking about, on the inside, to try to separate yourself from being positive or negative yourself. So me personally, yeah, I can agree with the spiritual side, like, being there with the sin, like anything that have you feeling bad, or like you done did someone wrong or yourself wrong, I can agree with that.
Good afternoon, everybody. When I think of my personal definition of sin, I think of the definition that's kind of in tune with the Greek definition of the word. The origin of sin actually comes from the game of archery with the arrows, and it means to not hit the bullseye, to not hit the exact center. And so with that being said, there's two types of sins. You have your iniquities and your transgressions. Your transgressions is when there's something that I know is wrong, but yet I transgress it, I cross over it, and I do it anyway. But my iniquities are the things that I do wrong that I didn't know that was wrong. And when I pull that back into myself, I think in terms of goals. Because when you're hitting the bullseye, you're aiming for that center. And so the transgressions are the goals that I have for myself that I've already crossed over. And the iniquities I see are the goals that my Creator had for me that I may or may not know about.
Great way of putting it, brother. Great.
Thank you, everybody, for sharing. I thank you for sharing my personal definition of sin. My personal definition of sin is, I truly believe in the power of grace, and I believe in the power of the spirit of discernment. So I think that when it comes to sin, like many of all said tonight, about when we think about something, like James was saying, about if I meet with this young woman, not the conversation itself is a sin, but the thoughtful action that could take place in the midst of it could become the sin. And it's definitely, I'm so glad you talked about the game of arches, because I was going to bring that up.
Okay, cool.
But I'm so glad you brought that up, because it's such a powerful message about how when we identify things as sinful, and I think it's so sad that in our community, when it comes to our religious and spiritual community, a lot of people want to label what can or cannot be a sin, or what sin is greater than the other.
Absolutely.
So I think that's something that I'm so glad that we're here having a discussion about it, because I want people to know that that is the part of redemption that comes in, and I believe in the power of grace. So thank y'all for sharing. Y'all a great group.
Can I expand on something you just said?
Sure.
You know, and I think it's interesting because what we don't want to do is get into a habit of categorizing sin,
Yes.
right? And so we're more
That's my
concerned with what category it fits into, which one is worse than other.
Yep.
We become more concerned with that than actually being good people and trying to avoid those things that lead us into places where we shouldn't be.
Absolutely. All right, y'all ready for the next question? I know I am.
Yeah.
The next one is, do you believe in the idea of faith? If so, where does your hope end and your faith begins in your spiritual journey?
Just make it simple. Yes, I very much well believe in faith. As far as hope, I don't believe in hope. To me, hope is like potential energy, and inspiration. I believe in inspiration, and inspiration is kinetic energy. Kinetic energy is energy that's in motion. That's inspiration. Hope is potential energies where energy donant. It has potential to move, but it's not moving. And so that's what I consider. That's why I don't deal with hope. I only deal with inspiration. Yes, I do believe in faith.
Okay, well, so with my understanding of faith being the substance of all things hoped for, you said where it begins and where it ends, and I've been walking this walk for a little while now, and at this point in my life, my relationship, I'm not in a place now to know definite, where it begins and where it ends. My main focus now is to make sure I have hope, to what I have, the understanding, that for what I believe in, and knowing me being a Christian, one thing, without faith is impossible to please God. So without faith, I'm not even fitting the requirements to be a sure enough effective Christian. So my main focus in this walk is faith. So that's an awesome question, you know what I mean? But really right now, just grabbing hope. The more I learn, the more growth I get is very intriguing, based on where I come from. My background with my parents, and then you look at history, and you look at tradition, a lot of times that people are caught up. But for as my look at it and how I try to portray it and put it out to others, man, it's awesome. It's almost, people say, so if you're doing it right, this has been applied right, your relationship is correct. Faith is awesome. You can truly move mountains. You can make things happen. There's nothing more powerful than faith applied correctly. You know what I'm saying? If it's applied correctly, nothing is stronger. So I mean, based off of that question, I don't have a definite beginning or definite point where I can really see where faith and hope even don't come along together.
So, I think that there are some things that are just out of my control that I can't handle, I can't affect change. And I feel like that's where faith comes in. The ability to believe that God can affect change in situations that are completely out of my control. Where does faith stop and hope start, or vice versa? I think that we have to be hopeful, and in doing so, you do all the things that you physically can to make the situation as productive or positive as you possibly can, right? But then there's some portion of that transitions out of your control. And I think that's where faith comes in. You have to believe that this thing will come to be or will be okay, even though you know that you cannot physically do anything to change that. So I'm going to challenge something you said,
Okay.
all right? Where you related hope to potential energy, and you related inspiration to kinetic energy. The thing about energy is neither created or destroyed. And if you look at something like a pendulum, right? As a pendulum swings from its highest point through and back, there's a transition that occurs. It's a transition from potential energy into kinetic energy, and from kinetic energy back into potential energy. And as this pendulum swings, this process continues to go back and forth. So as the potential energy decreases, kinetic energy increases. As kinetic energy decreases, the potential increases. So this idea of transitioning back and forth, using your analogy, I think that you have to have this transition from hopeful to faithful. And in that point where the transition occurs is where you have done all that you physically can. And so now you're transitioning into this point of faith where you've got to now rely on God to handle the rest and to fill in the pieces. But we all know, right, faith without works is dead, right? So you have to put your hopeful plan in action and then have faith that it will all come to pass.
Can I read the question?
Yes.
What it say? Can I just read what it say?
Okay, just to come back, and not say that you're wrong, you know what I'm saying, that's your opinion, but to me, it's, like I said, inspiration is kinetic energy. When you aspire to do something, you make things happen. When you hope, you just sitting there hoping that it's gonna happen. I know you said about the pendulum swing, and like that means, like you said, like if you're losing that inspiration and of that kinetic energy, it's gonna swing back to hope. So to me, that's what you said, right?
Well, what I'm saying is the total energy of the system
Mm-hmm.
never changes. We call it kinetic, you call it potential, but as it transitions from potential to kinetic, it's still energy.
Right.
So
Right.
it's never lost. It's never, in a system where you don't have any loss, right? It's a conservative system.
Mhm.
Then kinetic energy just translates back and forth this goes from kinetic to potential. So there's never a total loss of energy. The total amount of energy is always the sum of the kinetic plus the potential.
True. And that's what it is. So what I'm saying is like, I'd rather have inspiration than hope. That's basically what I'm saying.
I would tell you this, and I think a lot of times we're saying a lot of the same things, but I will say that I have seen faith in my own life. I have seen to where, and a lot of things you deal with internally, mentally, that a lot of people don't see. You know, my biological father never was around, and it was always in the back of my mind, where is he? Why doesn't he want to be here? So I was always chasing something. You know, I thought it was attention. It was attention for a long time. I wanted people to see me as doing something positive. So it was sports. Then I tried my little, trying to sell drugs and all of these little things. And I say, so God, why was I the one that never got arrested? Why did I never get killed? Why did I have 2 kids and you still chose me out of nobody that ever graduated in my family to have 6 degrees? Why? And why a PhD? And I realized it wasn't about me. So when you ask me about faith, I seen somebody that literally graduating from college, and I think most of us, we probably feel the same way. I thought it was easier to go pro than to ever graduate from college. To me, and I try to compare graduating from college, it was like a little boat in the ocean and somebody asked me to swim back. That's how hard I thought it was, because I thought I was black. So faith, you know, and seeing when I go to sleep at night, seeing that God will still show me, I got something for you. I don't know, and I still didn't know what it was, but I really believe in my spirit God has something for me. Even when I was out there doing wrong, I knew that God was still there, and I didn't know why he was still there. So the faith came through my life, and when I saw God transform my life, I really started believing God exists. So when I get in conversations with atheists or people that believe in a different religion, I tell them all the time, I'm a finite human being. I can absolutely be wrong in what it is that I believe. But faith to me is believing in things that I can't see. I don't have to try to go out of my way and explain, but I truly believe it. But I do reserve the fact I could be wrong because I'm a finite individual. But my faith tells me that what I believe in truly exists. And it's what drives me, what gives me the inspiration, you know, to believe. So that's what faith is to me.
These some good questions.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, faith. Like I said, I grew up kind of hard. And it got harder after I got grown, so I kind of lost a lot of hope. You know what I'm saying? I thought I had lost faith. You know what I'm saying? And then something kicked in, and I'm still here. I'm like with y'all right now. I probably wasn't supposed to be in here. A lot of us probably weren't supposed to be in here right now. You know what I'm saying? I know for sure. There's some people in here that probably know for sure that I'm not supposed to be in here right now. But I'm here. And that's because faith kicked in. See, I had lost hope. You hear me? I had lost hope, you know what I'm saying? And for some reason, like you said, you do everything that you feel like that you can do that's right or that's positive. Not just like for you, you know what I'm saying, like the sins, you know what I'm saying, like personally. You do everything that you feel like is positive for you and others, you know what I'm saying? And in the midst of all that, it's like, you know what I'm saying, it's still like to be in line when you're doing whatever you're doing, you know what I'm saying? And I lost all of that. So I lost hope, you know what I'm saying? And I lost faith. I lost anything positive I lost, and I was homeless. And I was out here walking around amongst my cousins, my aunts, my friends, my teammates, you know what I'm saying, all kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? I was just out here. And something happened. You know what I'm saying? Something happened. You know what I'm saying? And I think I even lost belief in God. I was out here like, there ain't no God. You know what I'm saying? I was one of those guys, like, ain't no God. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no God. But somewhere, somebody, you know what I'm saying? Somewhere got me right here, right now. It ain't me. It's completely out of my control. You know what I'm saying? I played my cards to the point where it was like I try to be a positive person for others because I felt like there wasn't no hope for me. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? There wasn't no hope for me. I had faith. It had turned into negative faith. You know what I'm saying? I had hope. It had turned into negative hope. So we owe the bank now when it comes to hope and faith. You know what I'm saying? We owe the bank. We hiding from them. You know what I'm saying? So now we doing things in this dark and it's kind of like that. You know what I'm saying? So to not try to bring it to anyone else, try to be a bright spot in someone else's life, and that's what got me here right now. I truly believe that now. You know what I'm saying? By me feeling like I lost hope, it had me actually doing things that a hopeful person would do. You know what I'm saying? And so the faith kicked in, and I'm here. So yeah, I believe in faith. Faith is a very diverse, like meticulous kind of system. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes, you know, so you can get blinded by the titles like hope and faith and all of that. But if you take all of them and you put it in a pot, you know what I'm saying? And make a nice little dish though, you know what I'm saying? And it's called the same to me, you know what I'm saying? It's called the same because I had lost both of them. All of it were the same. Potentially kinetic, you know what I'm saying? I lost all of it. I lost both. You know what I'm saying? I was just out here. Kim.
Oh, you go ahead. Cass Hooks, I didn't introduce myself earlier, but hope, in my opinion, hope is the imagination. And faith is more of a spiritual act because of the state of being. You live faith. So, like brother said, if you live it, you got ups and downs. It's everybody. So you can lose faith. But if you keep the idea of hope that, you know, regardless if I keep going, one day the sun got to come out. It can't rain forever. That's right. It can't stay dark forever. Because if it stays dark forever, nothing will grow. So like as long, because you know the earth is a circle, so it got to keep going. 360. Everything got to keep going back around. So the idea of faith, it builds us up. But the hope is like your vision. It's the beginning. You can't live in hope though. Because that's when the faith keep you going. That's a spiritual action. So that's it. That's all right. I like that.
Yeah. I just wanted to chime in on this one too. As you know, hearing the words hope and faith being thrown around, I can't help but think about 1 Corinthians 13 when Paul is talking about you have hope, then you have faith, and then you have love. And when I first heard it, I'm just like, okay, you got hope and faith. Well, what love got to do with it? You know, that's it don't seem to fit. And it's a scripture that it was a time I just kept reading it over and over again. And the way that I was able to come to a meaning within me to allow myself to get off of that chapter was you have hope. I just looked at him in order because he said the greatest is love. So you have hope. You can hope something happens, but you don't really have any kind of magnitude to go with that, right? But then you have faith, and it says faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. And so that gets real heavy there. But then you move to love. Love is almost like knowing. That's like someone's already proved it. Like if someone loves you, you can name the things they've done for you. God loves you. It's tangible. It has magnitude and substance. So then it led me to think, why are you looking at faith and hope as different things. But if we go to that faith, it has evidence and substance, which means to me it has magnitude and weight. And we got to realize that once we start talking about faith, faith has action. I mean, for example, we didn't know y'all was coming today. And we could have packed up and left, but we showed faith, and the evidence of our faith was that we started plugging up the microphones and plugging up the cameras. So there's that evidence, and I believe that faith actually makes things happen.
It was cool. It was cool because you like basically what you were just saying about hope and faith and then the love thing. You was basically saying like faith and hope. It's like one still. Like it's like one thing. And what it brought me to in my mind is that like when we think about hot and cold is one thing. That's one thing, and which is temperature. It's just different degrees. Hot and cold is still one thing.
That's right.
Temperature, different degrees, and that's what you brought me to, bro. And that's what.
And I didn't even think about it like that. I like that too.
That's what it is, bro. And appreciate it.
All right.
I just because I didn't say this. I did not say this. Big up to AJ, man, for doing this. Because that's what the inspiration is. He had a thought in his mind, right? That thought. And then he reached out to every one of us, right? And it made the inspiration come to, you told some people about it, and that's how it's a ripple effect. It was a ripple. So big up to AJ, man.
Yes.
Big up to AJ.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So what we all just said was we need it all, right? We gotta have it all. You gotta have hope, you gotta have faith, you gotta have love, you gotta have all of those things to really to make it in this world, right? Because I think what's really cool about this is, ultimately this is what we need to be doing more of, communicating with each other, sharing knowledge with each other, right? Helping each other to grow and to build. And, I thought that was a really awesome question that kind of followed up the way things started. Is that right, AJ? And, just starting, like you said, right? He had that inspiration and he started there and we had faith that things were going to happen and it came together, right? And so in all of that, it's all about love.
But
right?
That's
really
God
important.
to me. From what he did to have us all right here, that's God to me. That's what I got. God, you know what I'm saying?
I just want to bring up one more point. I'll be loud enough so I can hear it. But another thing you got to realize is that faith is something that's powerful. I mean, faith is powerful because you got to realize even atheists have faith. You got to have faith.
That's right.
To try to say that God doesn't exist because you can't prove it.
Probably more faith. I have a lot of faith.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to see that everybody is taking in my questions like this. And the
Great
thing is, you're answering them the way that I envisioned it to come forth because I prayed about my questions before I wrote them. And so I'm glad to see that they're intriguing the minds.
Oh,
tonight.
great question.
So, thank you. That is. That's some evidence of faith as well. And my journey for it was I didn't get to say this. I'm from Wilson as well.
Wow.
5 Points there. Shout out to everybody from 5 Points. And Benfield. But my thing is that for me, I was always the traditional churchgoer with my parents and just traditionally just going to church, going to services and things, but I was just going out of hope. And I was just kind of like, okay, I hope something magical happens. I would see people shouting and speaking in tongues, and I'd be like, I hope that happens to me. Like, when is that going to happen to me? So I'm sure many of you felt that way too. Like, when am I going to get to be on this board or be evangelist this or be able to do this? Or wow, that's so cool. Like, people in the community like that I looked up to as a child because at the time this was the only area I had seen. So once I got to branch out and have an adult opinion of my own personal journey with God, I can say definitely for me where hope kind of faded a bit into faith, transitioned into faith for me was the passing of my late husband. And many of you know my story. He passed away of HIV complications to AIDS. So with my husband passing, I was praying like, Lord, I want a purpose. Like I really want a big purpose in my life. I know I'm an educator. I know I'm a teacher. I really want to take myself to another level. What should I do? I was living in hope of a purpose. And so out of the passing of my late husband, birthed faith into a purpose. And then I just took everything that he was giving me as teachable tools to turn it into a licensed business, a speaking bureau, writing, and all these other things I do. So I just so happy that you guys are so receptive to my questions tonight. So I gotta hit you with another one. How is spirituality impacting your everyday lifestyle? Everyday life, just your regular everyday life. How did it impact you this morning? Let's talk about it.
Well, it impacts my life like 24/7, 365, every second, every minute. Like when I deal with people in the spirit. You might think that I just see this man and I deal with people in the spirit always, because you can feel negative or you can feel positive, you can feel it. So that's how I deal with people, and it affects my life and it impacts my life very big, you know what I'm saying? Colossal every day. So
Yeah, of course, me, even when Vegas, that's what he actually spoke to me about how it was spirituality, religion versus spirituality. And I'm like, man, every time I looked at it, it always went back to me, religion versus relationship, up to this morning, after doing service. And then it was brought to my attention as far as spirituality. Now, almost every religion, whether it's witchcraft, what have you, you're dealing with spirits. Spirit, you go with spirituality, spirit is what it is.
that's it.
So it's very broad, but based off of my spirituality and what I've dealt with, even at my worst times, when I was raised in church, mother's a minister, father's a minister, my brother is my minister now. A lot of things in my life, also right there at Church Street, that was our block there in downtown. So I seen a man hug this pole, if there's a pole right there, get his brains blowed out and grab that pole or a pole right there, sat down. I mean, the lifestyle I live, regardless of raised in church or not. Some of the guys that I dealt with, some of the worst guys in the city. And we wasn't in the clique, we was cool from the clique up the block, Powell Street, whatever. And the whole point of it is, as I was raised in the church, even my worst times, doing what we did from Charlotte to anywhere, there's always was a presence of where I come from. I wouldn't say I was the best out the worst, but I saved a lot of, instead of somebody getting shot, they got slapped. based off of the spirit, that I was raised on. The word speaks of us coming back, to that place. And I always thought in my mind, like, man, got into Islam, 5%ers, what's the math? What's today's mathematics? Stuttering, we snatching chains off, all types. But I was raised in the church. Spirit, the spirit was there. When I really go through, there was always a couple of spirituals as a little boy that I grew up with, even as 5%, even going to the mosque in Greenville. When I get real bad, I'll be in the bathroom, I'll be singing those little spirituals. Don't nobody know, but I'm singing. It got that bad. So my understanding is the spirit itself. I mean, my sheep know my sheep know my voice, and the stranger will not follow. At the end of the day, you who you are. Sometimes we could be in ourselves. I've been there, in myself or in this growth. And it's something I have to deal with. I can see it in somebody else. I can see who I used to be in somebody else, and I know they're on their way up because I know I am. But it's still somewhere or another spiritually I want to get at them. You know what I mean? But God to get me back. You know what I mean? Because I know, spiritually, everybody has a path that God to get them to. Regardless whether it's another religion, and there's a lot I don't agree with certain religions. But regardless of what I've been there, so spiritually, I'm just depending on it now more than anything. The flesh is a trick. I don't care who you think you are, how high you think you are. We done seen it with mega churches, and it don't matter who you are. So it's very important. For me to catch myself. I got to get back spiritual. I got to stay in the spirit. So it's very important.
It's funny, and also, all right, so my whole thing is mind, body, and spirit. And it also made me think about something that I said to Roy on Facebook. And I knew where he was coming from. I don't think you quite probably understood where I was coming from. I'm going to explain it a little bit right now. So this whole concept of mind, body, and spirit, And this whole renewing of the mind, when you start serving and accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, it says, don't put old wineskin in new wineskin, right? So I said, all right, the renewing of the mind, and it really challenged me. And I said, what did Jesus of Nazareth have that we didn't have? So when you think about it, he was born with Christ in him. It was the Spirit. He was born with that. Where once he died on the cross, once we accept him as our Lord and Savior, we have that Holy Spirit dwelling in us. So when I say Christ consciousness, it's basically saying the renewing of my mind is to really focus on everything like Christ. Everything. Not saying that I don't believe the Spirit is in me. I believe the Spirit's in me. That's why I have the Christ consciousness. So with that, when I wake up in the morning, I wake up and be thankful. For all of the pains that I have and all these surgeries, God, thank you. It could be worse. And by the time I'm 55, I may not even be able to walk. My wife may have to push me in a wheelchair. So I'm thankful for where I am right now. I'm thankful for, hey, I put my life on the table many a nights with women and many of the things that I have done. And for some reason, God decided to spare me and put me in the position I'm in. So I'm thankful for that. But then I also start going through, all right, God, what are the things that I'm truly grateful for? All of the abilities that you have given me. So I go through this every single day. And then I start reading. I read the word to feed my spiritual mind first. And then I start trying to build my intellectual mind by reading books and things that's going to build on how can I go out and educate somebody to where they can see Christ in me, but also be educated to this world. Because I feel like everything that we do in the Spirit got to be able to be practical so somebody's able to use it. So that's what I do. And then I go and work out. I work my body to make sure, God, I'm really showing you that I appreciate the temple you have given me. And then when I go in the shower, I literally take a hot shower and allow all of the sweat and everything to just wash off of me. And I call it a purification process. God, forgive me for all the evil thoughts of this flesh I have that I don't even control. Because, God, I can't control myself. So I know it's your Spirit that's in me that give me the ability to live a godly life every single day. And I try not to live too much in the future. Tomorrow, I hope I do this. No, God, I hope I do right today. The next second, the next minute. Somebody say something crazy, I don't flip out and do something crazy. And next thing you know, I'm headed to prison or whatever. So God, keep me sane so I can truly do your will. So I feel like it's a constant breaking down and building of you as a person, because as long as we got this flesh, we truly are not in control. And I think once we think we're in control and we truly understand everything, that's when Satan's able to creep in. So I think it's constantly renewing of your mind.
Can I just Yeah, and definitely. When I read it, I'm like, because I know Mac real good. Mac throughout the years I've been knowing Mac, so when I read it, I'm like, you know how you read. Sometimes you read things now. Things will be written one way, you meant one thing another way. And in my, when I read it, it said to me that the Holy Spirit was a state of consciousness. And I said, what? I read it again and I said, I don't want to get this thing mixed up. Well, I didn't say, I can't, I know Mac. You know what I mean? So yeah, I understand that clearly. You know what I'm saying? But really, it is what it is. You know, and everything we put on the table right at that moment. You know what I mean, after the fact. But yeah, but that was the understanding I got. Like, I know, bro, he couldn't have. You know, but that's, I understand clearly now.
But you see how God works.
We're
here to get today.
A couple of days later, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's all.
Exactly. And then this is real quick, like because he said mind, body, and spirit. I'm a poet also too. So one of the poems it's a real quick poem, and I just want to say it because it goes to what you were saying. And the poem is called "It's Up to You." It says, the other day, my soul and my host was having a conversation, so I was listening in, and my soul asked my host, "Do you think you would have life if I didn't live within?" And my host said, "Nigga, is you crazy? I wasn't built to think, I was built to do. So the rest of this stuff is up to you." You know what I'm saying? Like,
I like that. I like that.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That's what's up. Hey, my spirituality dictates how I live my life, right? So when I step out into the world every day, I realize that I'm going to be faced with constant decisions, right? Challenge after challenge, and you've got to make good decision after good decision. And so, it gets us back to what we were talking about earlier, right? Well, what's sinful and what's not. And, I think that we can argue about a lot of things in the Bible, but when I do read the Bible, the most, I think, well, the part of it that I think is the clearest to me is when I read about what Jesus Christ did in his everyday life, how he addressed issues. And there's a simplicity in it because it's not really hard, right? If the decision is doing something that helps or shows love to someone or doing the opposite, then you already know the path that Christ would have chose. You know, and it's funny, right? Because I think about this every day, especially when I get in my car. This concept of road rage is real, right? It's real, right? And so, you know, here I am leaving out of the house. And I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna be positive. I'm gonna have a good day today. I'm gonna show love to everybody. And I get a quarter mile down the road, somebody cuts me off, and I can feel that thing inside of me that's just like, you know what? You want to do the same thing to them, right? And so what that does is it humbles me because I have to acknowledge the fact I know that I have those evil thoughts. Yeah. And I have the ability to do those things that are not right. But I have to seek the Christ-like attributes in me, right? Those things that make me want to make good decisions and let that go as opposed to allowing it to fester. And so now, by the time I'm at work, you know, you're chewing somebody's head off because you're really just you're irritated and you're angry and you're allowing all that stuff to build up and come out of you in a negative way. And I say to myself commonly, you know, is that what Christ would have done? Is that how he would have handled the situation? And, you know, realistically, I think that there are a lot of decisions in life that can be complicated, but when it comes to showing someone love, the complication isn't in the action, right? But it's in the spirit, right? That battle of doing the right thing. And then, like you said, like your poem just said, right? The flesh follows. Once you resolve in your spirit that I'm not going to show evil back. I'm going to return it with positivity, and in situations where I can't, I'll just withdraw. But I'm not going to give that negativity, and I'm not going to be evil in return, right? Because if I can resolve that in my spirit when I leave the house, there's going to be one decision after another, right? Some I'm going to win, some I'm going to lose, but the ultimate goal every day is to leave home and do things in a loving way because I feel like that's what I'm compelled to do if I say I'm really trying to live a life that's like Christ.
Spirituality, how important it is to me, it's kind of, I don't know, I'm not going to say like, I'm not going to try to make it seem like this big logistical thing, but it's real big because, like I said, I've lost a lot in my life when it comes to like faith, you know what I'm saying, and belief in things and stuff. I kind of lost a lot and I gained it back because I was broken, I was torn down, and I was kind of like the spiritual me was forced to believe the things that I had believed before and more because of what I lost. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of, we emotional, right? We emotional people, right? So like we just know that God gave us emotions. We don't know where it comes from. We don't know how they get produced from in between how we feel about the floor. After thinking about it, we don't know where it comes from. But it's like, we get it though, you know what I'm saying? All right, some people, you know what I'm saying, feel like the emotions dictate the female's lives more than the man, but that's not actually true.
That's right.
Because
That's
like,
right.
a whole lot of times, like what this brother was saying, I get this a lot, you know what I'm saying? I do that a lot, you know what I'm saying? Like I wake up in the morning like, I'm gonna have a great day, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna blank out at work. I don't care what nobody say to me. We gonna sing today. We gonna go back to the old me. We'll sing some songs with it and stuff like that. And then it's like that one person, you know what I'm saying? Or that one thing. They be like, you kind of get to think about it so much, and the thought that you have about it is gonna be negative. So how you feel, it's like it happens so fast. The transition so fast. It's like boom. Now you got like this negative stuff on the inside with your spiritual. And then depending on how big you are in your spirit, man, that's how big this problem is gonna be. When it be on your spiritual. So it's like, man, how did he get mad and shoot his mom, walk into the salon and shoot his mom in the face? You know what I'm saying? Like, how you do that? This guy's spiritual is so big. If he could find the part, or somebody else could find the part they get it, and on the positive side, who knows what all we might consider, or others might consider a miracle that he might be able to perform in this lifetime amongst us. But see, that's how it is. You know what I'm saying? When it comes to the spiritual, spiritual is so important to me. It's like if I can't feel your spirit, man, I might just have to back up. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't understand it. You know what I'm saying? Something might happen, or they might say something, do something, and I might take it. My mind might take it as negative, like, oh no, that's not just the floor, that's the damaged floor. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to be like that. So it's like, all right, if your spirit ain't right, I might just have to back up. So sometimes a lot of us do this too. Like we be dealing with people like in the spiritual, like we try to make sure that they're good people. You know what I'm saying? Like spiritually, before we actually like open up a little bit.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of us do this, like we might test it. Like you see them aggravated about something. Like, bro, it's only this so and so. It's not the end of the world. They be like, right. You know, okay. But bro, look, about 10 minutes, just think about it, bro. This ain't that important. You know what I'm saying? This ain't that important, man. We can still go down here and do this, or go over here and do this. It's like right there, that's a sign. You know what I'm saying? Right there, that's a sign. Like I gotta back up a little bit. So, we might not pay attention to that because we might not be in tune with the spiritual right then at that moment. You know what I'm saying? So the spiritual, that's the spiritual form, the spiritual realm. Yeah, that's highly important to me. You know what I'm saying?
And look, I wanna add to that, and I know Roy know, I know Mike know, I know AJ know, and Milton.
Mm-hmm.
When you're in the streets, one of the reasons why you stayed alive is because of that connection that your parents connected you with the spirit at a young age. So you're able to read those spirits. You're able to see very quickly who's that person that's looking right through you that has no soul. And then some of the guys that's out there, but they got a good spirit about it. And you're able to discern between that. Because a lot of people that do wrong by the legal standards of our society standards, they're not bad people. Even if they have murdered somebody, they're not a bad person. Situations dictate why certain individuals do certain things, and you all know what I'm talking about. So I think the spirit definitely, you're able to read people by their spirit.
And when you out there, sometimes you see people who are elevated too, and they see it in you.
Yep, absolutely.
I hate that a lot of times. See, they think we believe in angels. Because I remember one time I was visiting a family member at the hospital, and I was down. You know, come from work, once they family in the hospital, so you had to go to work and fight for that, and then come and see that, do that. And I'm in the elevator, I see this guy, and he's a super jolly. I'm like, why is he jolly in the ICU unit? But I'm talking about, we kind of interacted for like 30 seconds, and I left the elevator, my whole spirit man changed.
Wow.
So it's like, I know, have anybody seen them falling? Like,
Yep.
That's how quickly it can transfer.
Yes, sir.
Like, just the idea of you brushing past somebody. And that's why prayers are point of contact too. Like, we can invoke good spirits or negative. So that's why I want to say, because you kind of like brought it back to me. When I was out there, I know, and I ain't grow up in church like that. I mean, the vibe and the energy of God was always in my home, but I didn't always have the leadership there. So when I know old me is about like, go in the house, boy, ain't nothing out here for you. And he might be drunk.
Right.
But you don't know what kind of spirit he got before he got drunk.
That's right.
Cause that's just some ass. The alcohol is some ass to cover some that's inside him. So I was like, yo, well, you kind of brought it out. I remember those days, though. So yeah, that's true.
It's a constant battle, right? Good and evil. It's a constant battle, and that war occurs in ourselves and it occurs around us, right? And so it's like those people we interact with. Sometimes we fall victim to that evil spirit, right? That thing that's in them, that war inside of them, and we allow that to, like you were saying, when you like step back. I was like, that's deep because. You interact with these people and you can see that there's this war going on inside of them. Hey, and sometimes that is not for you. It's not for us. That's their battle. And, you can't allow those things. And it happens commonly, right? Just as, your spirits are uplifted, you have those interactions in which you're dealing with, look, we're talking about good and evil here, right? So that means if we're acknowledging the existence of God, then we're acknowledging the existence of evil. And so that battle continues. And so every time I step out, I feel like I'm in the middle of a war. And I'm trying to make good decisions.
That's right.
So that I don't fall victim to, the negativity.
Right.
Removing yourselves out of the streets, right? It's like as an adult, now you can understand why people were like, you don't need to be in the streets, right? There ain't nothing but trouble in the streets. There's nothing but evil spirits. And this this spirituality that will not grow you out there. And so when you're interacting in it, you're around it, you're making yourself vulnerable to it. And so, it's like the grace and the mercy of, God, all of those prayers that parents put in, covered you in situations where you shouldn't have made it out, right? You shouldn't have never stepped out of that situation, right? Can't put that gun in your face. You should have never walked away to talk about it. But somehow, I think there's something to be said about living lives with purpose, right? And there being a higher calling to our lives, because even in that, grace and mercy gets us out of some of these bonehead situations we put ourselves in, because there is purpose, right? And there is this bigger goal for our lives. And so being hopeful and having faith that there is more purpose to your life, right? That means something, because that keeps us latched in on a higher mark, and we don't just fall and settle for mediocrity and being out there, and in that just becomes okay, because then you become consumed. And we don't want to be at that point where we can just be consumed by that evil. Some people make it out of that, some people don't. And when you do, you really do have to count it a blessing that you were able to overcome that.
I just wanted to make a comment on the question. Get a microphone. Go grab my seat over here. All right. So, with all the talk about spirit, it makes me think back to the term in the original Hebrew was ruah, and that word was the same word for wind. And the reason being is your spirit is, number one, unseen like the wind, and it also can be very powerful, like a tornado and something. So when we have our spirit in us, it's the thing that's making us move, right? But we gotta know it. We gotta study it. Just like a meteorologist knows that when a cold front hits a warm front, a tornado is going to happen. And so, to answer the question, how does it change your everyday? I've turned to a person around me of Sixth Sense. Little kids like, I see dead people. A lot of people that know me know that I'm initially quiet. I'll usually get in the corner just because I'm looking at y'all's spirits. You become very cognizant of it. And so, day to day, I'm just constantly thinking about it, and then it actually forms my whole routine. At night, one of the things I do is I look up at the stars, because it helps me realize that we're dealing with a God that created all this stuff up here. So it puts the little problems on earth in perspective and makes it really small. And another thing I do to help govern my spirit is at night I reconcile and think about my previous day, and I basically set a new set of goals for the next day and kind of throw away the bad parts, because I feel like if I carry over the stuff from the previous day, that wind in my spirit keeps building up, and it could be a negative wind. It keeps building up and might cause bad things. So I just try to make sure I cleanse my spirit every night through meditation.
Nice.
Meditation.
Thank you, everybody, for your answers. I really enjoyed it. I think we did an awesome job with that, because for me personally, I do kind of like a cleanse, like you said, for your spirit, where daily is the renewing of the mind. So sometimes it may be a spiritual, inspirational post I've seen, or maybe something that I put on my wall like a prayer, or maybe just sometimes I journal, since I love to write. And I just think about inspirational things, how I could do things better each day. So I wake up with a thankful and grateful purpose of each day having another opportunity to walk in the purpose He has for me. And I feel like just in general, we all should just be kind of focusing, because our main purpose here is to fulfill the purpose He has set for our lives. The sad part is a lot of people don't get to tap into that purpose until later in life, sometimes never at all, because they're too focused on other aspects that are going on in the world. But I think it's beautiful when you can tap into the spiritual mindset of yourself and be able to do that. So thank you for your answers. These answers are awesome. So I got to hit you with another one. So this one's going to be kind of going a little personal for me. I would love to know what your thoughts are on the spirituality or religion and hip hop today. I want to know what your thoughts are. How it's impacting entertainment, hip hop music, entertainment. Some of your parents, some of you are family members and things, or some of you may be lovers of music like I am. But I just want to know your opinion on how you feel spirituality or religion impacts hip hop today, or in general.
And I'm gonna jump in real quick.
Go on in there.
And I'm gonna be real fast with my comment.
All right now.
You know, just like with any other genre, I feel like music without a purpose is dead, it's lifeless. And I feel like hip hop has become something that has no life. Back when I was younger and we were listening to some of the artists, it was like, even though what they were saying might have been graphic, it was real. And they were telling stories. And it was a genuineness to what they were saying. And now it just seems like what you listen to has no purpose. It's just hapless babbling. And to me, that does not positively help anyone. That doesn't breathe life into any of these young people that are listening to it. It just leads them more down this path of lifelessness and destruction. And so, to me, hip hop has lost its purpose.
Well, I'll say, to me, hip hop hasn't lost its purpose because I think of people like Kendrick Lamar. Like Kendrick Lamar, he is you can tell that he's been out there in the streets. You can tell he has a spirit. His music, it shows through him, and he's all about the people. And that, as you know, that we descend from Africa, and in those days, like African people, that's how we did with the music and the dancing. That's us. That's us. The other people distorted it for us, and now they're using money to help to get music distorted for kids and things to do other things. But I still love hip hop because of a person like Kendrick Lamar, and because of like Chuck D, Fight the Power, and all that. That's why I still think that hip hop is relevant and spirituality is in hip hop. It's just the type of music that you listen to. It's just like the preachers that you go to church and listen to. Like what's the guy named? Got the big mega church, and then he got the big flock, and he messed with them little kids. Eddie Long. You know what I'm saying? Like how can you do that, man? Like seriously, like how can you do that? You got this big following. You got these big people that believe in you and is following you.
Spirit
You
man.
know what I'm saying? Huh?
Spirit man.
The spirit man ain't right. You know what I'm saying? But he pretended to those people that his spirit man right until he get caught up on some stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, sir.
So I feel what you're saying, right? So let me ask you this, right? So
Okay.
do you feel like, because you know what I'm saying is I feel like hip hop has lost its purpose,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily some artists,
Okay.
right?
So that artist is hip hop then.
Well,
If you say not necessarily some artists.
So here's and this is what I was going to ask you,
Okay.
right? Because you know it's like we can all agree that over time a culture develops,
True.
right? And so we all grew up. Hip hop is us.
Right.
Like our generation is hip hop. So you know I don't have to ask you what hip hop is. You don't have to ask anybody. You know, right?
Right.
So do you feel like hip hop itself, or because I'm saying I feel like the what hip hop is has lost its purpose, and I feel like there are artists out here that maybe are trying, right? And you know those are the ones that we probably listen to, but in general, how is that changing hip hop?
Okay. To answer your question, I'll look at it like a person searching, like how we searching to be one with God. You know, you get, it's a path that you walk down, and some people path, you know, you're gonna go down the wrong path, and like that's what I think that hip hop is. It's just in the dark right now, you know, but it's still like I said, we are hip hop. We are hip hop. It's just in the dark right now because it's been distorted by the higher powers. You know what I'm saying? So, but we like I said, we are hip hop, and I think that it's lost its way. Now, it hasn't lost its meaning, but it's lost its way, and it just need to find its way back to the light. That's basically that's to answer your question. Rapper.
Well, I mean, well, hip hop. And I always took my experience of music of hip hop a little different from the average person. You know, age 17. We started rapping at 16. Age 17, we had a group, CPR, around here in Wilson. It was doing what it was doing, but the guys that we dealt with, you know, they were hustlers. You know, and it wasn't a game to them. To us, it was kids, and me, I was a church kid. So they took us. I mean, we toured with Heavy D. You know, Heavy D had us with his sister. at his mom's house. I mean, it's to the level of where we were for us, the industry. You know, at Ebony's mom's house, meeting a lot of rappers. We came to Ed Nas. This cat was at a cookout in Mount Vernon, and we just in Wilson telling everybody about this guy named Nas, man. He's gonna come out 2-3 years later. He came out and nice, whatever. But the experience of understanding hip hop and music and hip hop versus the industry. You know, hip hop is mainly a lot of these cats you hear now. You hear them on the radio, Crazy Styles. The young boys talking about anything, even the style of skinny jeans. If you met them on the streets, some of these guys are freestyling, won't even be what you hear on the album or what's released. It wouldn't be that. It's what the industry is pushing for. You know, in our awareness, we have our kids. That's why the market goes after the kids. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to, for us, hip hop on our level hasn't really changed much. But when you start going into the industry and what's been put out, what's on the radio, what's been crammed to our kids, what's been crammed into us, is deliberate. You know, and I always hate to seem like somebody it's a conspiracy. It always has been. I mean, it always has been. And when you say we go back to good and evil, you know, one thing I learned about that after dealing with CPR and those guys, certain things went terribly wrong. You know, but we understood a lot about the industry. First thing we do, we see Busta Rhymes. This is 92. He's still in the Pathfinder that he had in 89 with one headlight. We thinking this guy's wasn't rich. You know, Arcanelli, different rappers. Now we are getting an understanding where hip hop is not, this was way back in 93, hip hop is not what we thought it was. People we thought got millions of dollars pro.
Yeah.
And that's reality. Then even the gay thing. You know, Ice is from S-Clan. She walking around holding hands with Latifah. We looking at it like, what is happening? You know, like, so I mean, a lot of the reality of the music, a lot of the reality of the hip hop, you know what I'm saying, is like I said, deliberately put out to hurt us. Something that we love so much. You know, it was fine until it started hitting certain other areas where it wasn't. Almost like drugs. And when it got to reaching certain communities, certain people, and I don't put it on race, I put it on class. When it started hitting a certain class of people, then they want to control. Once they got control of it, you know, it put us where we are now. So just a long story short, after that, started dealing with Mark Sparks and the Cadillac Raw, you know, dealing with Ant Hamilton and Sunshine Anderson before they were mega stars. But that's still showing me the next level. The next level. When you start talking about the quote unquote Illuminati or what have you, they make that, they put that. That's, I mean, it is what it is, but it's, what it is now is not what it was. But anyway, it's truth behind that order. You know, so it's a lot going on against us. That's what makes us so powerful. We're walking around blindfold, just blind as a people, but we're still holding up. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to hip hop and where it is, I mean, regardless of what, I'm 42 years old now, and I'm doing gospel. You know, one of the guys who spoke with Spark, and I'm working with him now. We're doing gospel music. You know, and it's not even the same goal. No, we don't want to get on. I'm 42. What would I do with a record deal? What would I do with $1 million for you to just, you know what I'm saying? Well, for now, it's more of a ministry. You know what I'm saying? So when it comes to just hip hop, is what it is. It's a weapon that's being used against us. When you say Kendrick Lamar, you speak of kid from Fayetteville.
J. Cole.
Yeah. And I think they're being used to a certain extent. Positive Brothers, but what it does is it keeps you winged. You know, I'm gonna listen to Kendrick Lamar right now, but that's gonna keep me to the other 15 albums I got that ain't hitting on nothing. You know what I'm saying? So for us, what he's doing is just keeping you, you know what I mean, it's keeping them in there. So they always have a couple of artists like that. But it'd be mind blowing to know how many real nice, positive, conscious brothers we have young that's out here that would chew them up, really. But they would never get on based off the agenda.
Hey, like what Roy and Mike said, it's a lot of hidden factors that a lot of us we're not aware of. Even when you start thinking of hit factor, like how do they condition us to like music, the way they spin it? You know, songs that I said, I don't like that song. Next thing I know, I end up liking a song that I think is garbage. So for me personally, I'm never gonna see another Tupac. God bless us. So I love Tupac. But outside of that, you know, when we start thinking about what are the hidden agendas and what is the chase, they condition us to chase money. And then when you look at the grand scheme of things, you know, in the late 80s and the early 90s, it was only 200,000 inmates in prison. Now we're looking at 1.4 million, 1.8 million, and majority of them are black. So it's $1 billion industry. We're talking about lawyers. We're talking about police officers. We're talking about judges. We're talking about correctional officers. How can we keep making money? Well, exploitation. Let's make them make the music we want them to make. So we got to condition the majority that are not in the rap game, because most of the guys that's in the game right now, they're not even thugs and stuff like that. But let's condition them to think that that's okay to be like them, because we got to keep locking people up. We got to get them, you know, they can't be focused on education and really doing something with themselves. We got to lock them up. So it's very spiritual, but what did it say? It's not money that's the root of all evil. It's the love of money. So let's make them fall in love with money, and let's show them how we can give them a little bit of money, or give the perception that they have money. Because we'll give them things, we give them jewelry, we give them cars to make them think they have money, but then we'll take it from them, and they don't even really have money, but they're still pushing forward our agenda. So there's a lot of things that we can't see, but it's all spiritually connected. And we can't separate the two and say it's just rap. No, it's all spiritually connected. And it's for a bigger purpose that we can't even see.
Oh man, yo. Hey.
Just getting fed.
Yeah,
I'm getting fed. Me too.
Man, hip hop, I done forgot the question already.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's what do you feel the impact of spirituality is on hip hop today?
What do I feel the impact of
Spirituality
spirituality
is in hip hop.
in hip hop?
Mhm.
I don't feel like there's any spirituality influencing or having a major impact on hip hop too much. I look at it like that movie Braveheart. Man, he fought a good war.
Yeah.
He still got killed at the end. That's how I look at it. You know, now, like Big Bro said, now I'm pretty sure like I might be like, Big Bro, let me hear something. Now that might be like hip hop, you know what I'm saying? But you know, say you throw it on the airwaves, they gonna be like, man, I don't want to hear that. They don't want to whip the nay. They want to hear the your price is way too high. You need to cut it. They want to hear nothing that's gonna that like the real origin of what it was supposed to have been for you to grow. You know what I'm saying? For you to know. You know what I'm saying? What's coming? What's happening? And how to be when it happened to you, or what not to do, or how not to be when it happened to you, or when it's presented to you. So I don't know, but as far as spirituality influencing or impacting hip hop, it'll be very rare. You know what I'm saying? It'll be very rare. There's too much control.
Yes.
There's too much control over what's being said. What's supposed to be like the favor for the people's ear, you know what I'm saying, and stuff like that. It's too much control over that because of the money.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And that ain't spiritual at all. That ain't what it is. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I want to wait. When you talking about spirituality in hip hop or spirituality in music, I'm gonna use the term spirituality it could be global good or bad spirituality, but you gotta recognize that music has a lot of spirituality in it. Just because when you hear the beat, it makes you move, it makes you feel a certain way, and music controls your spirit in a certain way. Like, for example, if I'm coming home and if I'm tense, I put on jazz or easy listening music to calm me down. If I want to get hyped up, I gotta go somewhere, I put on some upbeat hip hop. That's right. Because I know that it controls my emotion. So when talking about spirituality and hip hop, I was having a conversation with my cousin Dave the other day, and we was basically talking about what we always talk about, the state of the culture of our people. And he was like, man, well, what do we do? You know, everything is so against us. We were talking about the economy and flipping the black dollar at the time. He was like, what can we do to change it? And, I was talking with him, and I was like, well, with any war, I'm reading Our War at the time, so everything I'm thinking about war. With any war, there's usually a major weapon that one side controls. Like, for example, if you take America, we control all the nuclear war. So if a small country, Kazakhstan or somewhere, gets a nuclear warhead, then they have the ability to destroy America because they control that weapon of mass destruction. Well, in our cultural battle, hip hop and music has become that weapon, and the industry controls it right now. It exists in the form of underground music, but we're not really controlling it. It's just kind of bubbling up here and there. So I just think that hip hop is that thing that if we can gain control of it, we can start to turn this thing around. Right now, the state it's in is not dead, but it's in hospice. But I think we can, if anything can bring us back, I think that's one thing that we can unite on it. But we got to stop supporting the other enemy, the enemy.
You just said a mouthful, right? Because we talk a lot about they and them and all of this,
Right.
but if you get down to it, we buy that trash. We're the ones buying the music that is no good. If you think about what I said that hip hop is lifeless, right? There's no lifelessness, and there's no life in the music. Why do we keep buying it, right? I mean, this cat sitting in here right now, whether you admit it or not, we talk about we real hip hop heads, and then you go buy that garbage. I'm telling you right now, banging it because the beat is hot and it's garbage. And it's like, you know, that's what's so crazy, right? A lot of the hip hop that I'm still listening to is stuff that was made 15, 20 years ago, right? And sometimes it kind of turned me on to something